Order the regular meeting of the Steering Legislative and Governmental Committee for, this is Wednesday, September 30, 2009. Do we have some minutes we need to approve? Okay, we have some minutes from our last meeting that we need to approve.
September 9.
From September 9th.
Mr. Chairman, in the absence of Mr. Coggin, who always does this duty, and so in his name, I'm sure he'll be back. Can I make a motion to approve the minutes?
Gladly take that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jordan, and seconded by Commissioner Black and Commissioner Farley. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those minutes are approved and as presented. We'll move on to first item on the agenda is fill vacancy on the Board of Zoning Appeals. We have, looks like one vacancy there. I believe it's the term of Mr. Keith Bratcher that has expired. And we have two applicants for that position. Mr. Bratcher has reapplied for that position. He is a resident of District 2, and he has served 2 years as an alternate and 2 years as a full member, most recently on that board. And then we also have the application for Mr. David Nipper. This, of course, would be a new applicant. He's a resident of District 15. And at this time, what we traditionally do is allow the applicants an opportunity to address any comments they may have to the board. So we'll just go in order of pages here that I have. Mr. Bratcher, I will call on Mr. Bratcher first. Any comments that you might have? So.
I'll just say I was appointed as an alternate on DGA in 2005, and then Mr. Charles passed away in 2007, and I was appointed to fill his unexpired term, and so we come to, it's expired. So I've enjoyed serving on the DGA the last 4 years, and I just want to reapply. I'd like to continue to serve. It's very interesting. Over sometimes, but anyway, I just would like to continue to serve.
Any questions for Mr. Bratcher? All right, thank you for being here. Mr. Nipper. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm David Nipper. I've been living in this county for 35 years. I know Mr. Toggins and the mayor pretty good. I go to church with them. I had talked to them about getting involved because in the past I had said something to a person about, oh, you need to get involved in the city or quit complaining. So they kind of turned it on me and said, well, why don't you? So after much thought, I thought, well, it's time to really get involved. And this position, I was told, came up, so I applied for it and the zoning board also. Because I want to serve my community. I have the time right now to do that. And I feel it's a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nipper. Any questions for Mr. Nipper? All right, then at this time, we'll open the floor for any discussions.
4-year terms. This is 4-year term.
I believe it is.
And
I think it's fine.
I don't know.
you've not, Mr. Bratcher, you've not served a full term.
No, sir. I was an alternate,
Sure.
and I just filled the unexpired term with Mr. Campbell. Yes. The last 2 years.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no other questions, I make a motion that we nominate 2 of the applicants and vote for 1.
Have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion, a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll have a roll call vote then on Mr. Bratcher and Mr. Nipper. Both have been nominated. Becky, if you'll call the roll.
Commissioner Black,
Bratcher.
Commissioner Coggin,
Nipper.
Commissioner Farley,
Bratcher.
Commissioner Jordan,
Bratcher.
Commissioner Phillips,
Bratcher.
Commissioner Rogers.
Bratcher.
5-1.
All right.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Bratcher.
Thank you both for your application and your interest.
Absolutely. Mr. Bratcher, your name will be forwarded on to the full commission then with a recommendation for reappointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a full term. And Mr. Nipper, I want to echo Commissioner Phillips's comments. We are very eager to get you involved in the county's business. So I know we've got another application here coming up, so we'll take that up now. We need to move to the second item here, which is fill 2 vacancies on the beer board. And we have 4 applications. Some of the members, I circulated these earlier, I think some of the members have seen these other 2 applications. We have 2 that were received with our agenda, 2 that are here. And let me read them first, and then I'll pass them down to you in just a second. First applicant is Mr. Keith Bratcher. This, too, would be a reappointment for him. He has served 15 years on the beer board since 1994. Again, he is a resident of District 2. Mr. David Nipper, again, is an applicant. He would, of course, be a new applicant and a resident of District 15. Our third application is from Mr. William L. Murray. He is a resident of District 18, and this, too, would be a new applicant. And then a application from Mr. Alfred Fan. He is a resident of District 10, and he would be a reappointment, having served on the board since 1994, on the beer board since 1994. So I'll go ahead and pass Mr. Murray's and Mr. Fan's applications on to the board since they weren't included in the agenda. And at this time, open the floor to Mr. Bratcher for any comments that you might have concerning your application to the beer board.
All right. Again, I just, I enjoy serving. This was the first board that I'd ever applied to. I've been on since 1994, the last 15 years, and it's pretty interesting sometimes. I will say one thing: it's not maybe not like some of the other boards. It's not necessarily you meet every month. The beer board just really meets when you have applications. So it's not like a really monthly board, but I have enjoyed serving on it. I have reapplied and been on it for the last 15 years, so I just want to continue to serve like I need to.
Thank you, Mr. Bratcher. Any questions for Mr. Bratcher? All right, move on to Mr. Nipper.
Well, I believe, I've always studied why I want to serve on a board, and I'll just let those comments stand. Thanks.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Nipper? All right, Mr. Murray. Is Mr. Murray here? Mr. Murray.
Good evening. I'm Murray. I'm a resident. I've been in Murfreesboro all my life. Right now, I'm working at the fire department. I'm on the beer board as an alternate. I see that the direction that the county is going in, and I would like to just give my community some service back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Any questions for Mr. Murray?
How long have you been in office?
A year.
A year?
Yeah.
Mr. Fan. Mr. Fan present. Let's see Mr. Fan. Okay. At this time, then, we will open the floor for any further discussions or motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we nominate all 4 and vote for 2.
Is there a second?
I'll second
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will nominate all 4 applicants and vote for 2. And Ms. Becky, if you will call the roll on that one.
Commissioner Black,
Bratcher, Murray.
Commissioner Coggan,
Bratcher and Nipper.
Commissioner Farley,
Bratcher and Murray.
Commissioner Jordan,
Bratcher and Murray.
Commissioner Phillips,
Nipper and Murray.
Commissioner Rogers.
Bratcher and Murray.
It is Bratcher and Murray.
All right. Mr. Bratcher, then you will be recommended to the full commission for reappointment to the Beer Board at our next full commission meeting. And I want to tell you, too, that we certainly appreciate your service on both those boards over the last several years. So you've done a wonderful job, and appreciate your interest in continuing to apply for those positions. Mr. Murray, you too will be recommended to the full commission for appointment to the Beer Board, and that would be I believe a full non-alternate term, take over for that. And then, Mr. Nipper, we want to express our sincere appreciation for your interest in the board. I think I speak for all the members of the committee here that we want to encourage you to continue to keep that up. Sometimes, it requires more than one or two applications to keep coming back, but we are very thankful that you are interested in it and eager to have the opportunity to work with you. So,
Mr. Chairman, I don't know the legal part of this, but if it goes like the nominations are right now,
You'll have to announce
We have
it,
to announce it, okay.
and it's not vacant, so you'll
Okay.
announce it next month.
I thought we'd take care of that tonight, but.
I think what you're getting at is Mr. Murray's position as an alternate will become vacant.
Right.
And at that time, then that may be a good opportunity for Mr. Nipper to.
But I didn't know if legality-wise, we're going to have to announce it for what, so.
We'll announce that position, and assuming it's passed by the full commission, then we'll announce that position, and maybe look forward to seeing you again.
Okay.
Good deal. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. We have a very short agenda tonight. I was advised by Vicki in the mayor's office that Sonia Stevenson had some other issues come up that she's not going to be able to report to us as far as human resources department is concerned. So that will bring us to the last agenda item, which is my favorite, any other business.
Mr. Chairman, last month, our last meeting, we talked about the law department and put that process in place, and there's been some print in the paper, and it's got a little confusing. Any way you can make some comments on that? I know, John, that you were real close to that process and still are. Is there any way that you could comment on some of the things that's been written in the paper and how accurate it may be or inaccurate it may be? Or
Yeah, I'll be glad to. And I wouldn't say I have full recollection of everything that's been written in the paper about it. But I know that there's been some concern expressed over primarily two issues. The indemnification issue. There's a clause in the agreement that we've executed with our county attorney that talks about indemnifying him for acts committed in the course and scope of his work. And then also there is of course, private act that established the position of county attorney that was enacted in 1957. And in that private act, there's a provision that requires the full commission to approve the hiring of any outside counsel. Let me take those, I guess, concerns in that order, and if there are any other questions from the committee, I'll try to field those too. But talking first about the indemnification issue, I think at the last commission meeting, Commissioner Williams talked about a philosophy that would treat our county attorney and perceive our county attorney as a vendor to the county, one which we wouldn't owe any kind of duty to as far as indemnification is concerned. I think at that same meeting, though, we talked about the county attorney's position as having been over the last several decades, probably since the inception of the Private Act in 1957, that we have treated the county attorney as an employee as opposed to a vendor. So you have these two differing philosophical ways of the way you can treat the county attorney. That's philosophically speaking. There's also a legally speaking. How would the courts treat them? Would the courts treat the county attorney as a vendor or as an employee? But where I'm going with this is, I think the county's position has always been, for the last several decades, that the county attorney is an employee of the county, in the sense that We provide him with legal assistance we pay for. We have provided him with all the benefits that a county employee receives. And so for that reason, I think we've always had the attitude that he's I say that my service on the county commissions has been limited to 7 years, so beyond that I wouldn't be able to speak personally. But anyway, I think that the county has traditionally treated the county attorney as an employee. If that's the case, we as a county generally indemnify and treat county employees the same. So if Mr. Cope does something in the course and scope of his employment, then the county would generally look to that and take and hire and take on the defense of that case. I think that the other philosophy says that Mr. Cope's on his own, but you know I just don't think that's what we've done in the past, and I don't think that's what we would do with any other county employee. Kind of turning to the issue of the private act, about all I can say with that about the private act is there is a provision in there that deals with the hiring of outside counsel, and that it's clear that the full commission must approve the hiring of outside counsel. In the past, I candidly don't recall specifically what we've done when outside counsel has been hired, but it certainly wouldn't surprise me if counsel has been hired before or without full commission approval. So to that end, I say that there certainly it was an act in 1957. I candidly do not have full knowledge of every private act that's in existence, and I don't know if the mayor would either, but and I don't think any of the commissioners do. So there certainly isn't any intent, on the part of the commission to circumnavigate that private act. But at the same time, I don't know what the legal atmosphere was in 1957, but I do believe that requiring full commission approval prior to hiring outside counsel for a lawsuit can be a very dangerous provision. In Tennessee, there are very short triggers from the time you're sued to the time you have to appear in court. It's 30 days, maybe even sometimes less than that. And so to require full commission approval before an attorney can be hired can be very dangerous if, for example, the county's sued on June 30th, we don't meet in July, we don't meet again until late August. The county could actually be defaulted in that, have a default judgment entered against them. So I think it's a necessary aspect of the mayor's position that he have the discretion to hire outside counsel. And so that's why we're working, I think we'll be working probably starting next month to look at forwarding a request to the legislature to modify that private act so that we can have some measure in place that would allow him, what I would say is at least discretion to hire outside counsel on an emergency basis and either have the commission come back and ratify it or have some other measure in place that, depending on what the commission's desire is, to approve counsel. So we're working to do that, but that's going to take some time.
I don't really see how we could be expected to hire an outside attorney virtually every time we're sued if our county attorney couldn't handle it. We'd be the solution to what you just said about could be as many as 50 or so days, and then when we met, we'd have to have a special call meeting, which would of course be pretty expensive for the taxpayer to ratify the mayor's selection of an attorney, or a suggestion, that'd be a suggestion of an attorney. I don't know that that's what this law meant for us to do, but it's a complicated issue, I think.
Right. Like I said, I don't think the same rules of procedure were in effect in 1957 as there are now. And going forward, before the Private Act is amended, I think we'll all be very aware now of the provision that's in the Private Act. And so we'll need to be obviously taking that into consideration going forward. But I will also point out, too, that when the mayor hires outside counsel, I don't think it's been any secret to the commission that that's happened.
That's correct.
It certainly has. He's always been forthcoming as to the identity of that individual, that firm. And so I think, you could certainly argue that by implication, and the fact that we haven't taken any action when we've learned of it, that we've impliedly approved the hiring of that outside counsel. Also, we were talking before the meeting started that Becky and I were that remember the budget committee also approves funds for the hiring of outside counsel. So again, I think that could be arguably indication that we've approved the hiring of outside counsel.
And every year in the June meeting, right before we approve the budget for the next fiscal year, that's approved in that budget every year.
Yeah. So I don't think that there's any, certainly no intent on the part of the commission to get around that or something like that. It's just been something that we've done in the past, but looking forward, we're going to see what we can do to rectify any concerns that anybody might have on that.
If the mayor was quoted correctly in the paper, I wouldn't even bring that up, except somebody else did a few minutes ago. If he was quoted correctly, he said that the law itself, 57 Act, was, I believe the word was outdated law, and that we were going to request a change in that. And of course, the very fact that it refers to the county commission as the quarterly court is obviously extremely outdated. Also, legal proceedings in 1957 and their length and their frequency have no relation to something that's over nearly 60 years later. And I'd like to hear y'all's opinion on this. It says that the term will be for 2 years. I'm not certain that. First of all, I'm not certain I agree with the mayor, which will not bother him 1 second, about the quarterly court and being outdated. It probably is. But the term for 2 years, did we actually, isn't that kind of what we did?
Yep.
2 years? And we're going to review it at the end of 2?
Yeah, that's a good point. That has been a concern, another concern that I've heard, that we have violated the Private Act somehow by entering into this separate agreement with the county attorney that conceivably goes beyond 2 years. I say that I believe what we did was entirely consistent with the Private Act. You're exactly right. We have appointed the county attorney to do everything for the next 2 years. After 2 years is when things begin to change. At that time, then, the general legal services can go at the option of the county in-house. And then at the same time, a year later, the county then can take over even litigation in-house. So for the next 2 years, that's exactly what we've done, is what's consistent with the Private Act, and that is appointed a county attorney for a term of 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
I've got one more question. Under that contract the other night that we voted for, it was a new sentence that says that the county will pay liability claims for Mr. Cope. Was this in the original contract before? Are you aware of that? Yeah.
There wasn't a written contract to this point. This contract was entered into to try to lay the foundation for a roadmap for where we go, as far as after 2 years and this transition that we're going to affect here. So the short answer is no, that provision wasn't in there before. But I kind of go back to what we talked about earlier, and that is how traditionally the county has treated the county attorney, excuse me, the county has treated the county attorney's position, and that is as an employee. So if that's the case, then it's always been the county's attorney, or the county's position that we do just what that contract says. That does not, in my opinion, reflect a change from what we've done in the past. I just don't know if ever we've been, candidly, if we've ever been called upon to act on that provision. I don't think it's ever been an issue before. Excellent questions.
Thank you.
All right. Any other business then to come before the committee? Okay. If not, then we are adjourned.
I need those two applications.